killed it. That was dinner. So, but you know, I'd rather have store bought.
Oh, no.
It's different. Yeah, it's tougher.
Yeah, I never buy the whole chicken
Oh,
at the
really?
store. I get grossed out. It just because to me it tastes different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it tastes different than like the ones my mom used to make.
That's the reason why. Well, ours were, ours tasted tougher. Maybe it's, I mean, it's fresh.
Yeah. Well, what they were
I'm not
eating
used to it.
probably.
Yeah, I wasn't used to the taste or the texture.
And I have to flush them too and everything. So I have to
I
rinse
just
it out.
figured out. She showed me how, yeah.
Yeah, boiling water and
What the? Put a little dust.
yeah. The only thing I couldn't do is like open it and take everything out. I would I told my mom, I help you with everything, just don't make me do that. Please don't make me do
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
I couldn't stand to hear the noise that they would make. Me feel like
Oh,
I would be in the room crying
no. Yeah, no,
because we did get attached. I would get attached.
yeah, no, I think it was since I was little raised too that they were, so,
Well, I knew it all. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, so that, you know, that pig, even if you let it go free, it's not going to live very long because it
yeah.
wasn't designed that way. They're a special breed. And that's what his purpose was. And that's the whole reason we did it.
Yeah.
But when it came time to it, I got choked up and then I couldn't eat any of the meat. But he loved it. My son loved it.
Yeah.
So good that you did the right thing. That is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, one of my cousins, she was like, I can't watch them, just start crying, and my grandpa would say, you need to go away from here, because I don't know, we have this belief that if you like feel sorry for them, it will take longer for them to die.
Oh,
So it's like, yeah, so it's like, go away. Yeah, don't be screaming and crying in front of it. So go. Yeah, no, I didn't.
Animal control picked up a pig that was running loose in Newman the other day, and yeah, and somebody adopted it.
really?
Yes. And I saw it. It looked like a pot belly pig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, those are
It's
pets.
huge.
But yeah, that's right. They keep growing.
How do you lose a belly pig?
Maybe on purpose. Maybe he's getting too big.
Because it was that and a Reimer. And those dogs are expensive.
Well, I've seen so many dogs like people found, especially after this like raining season, so many around here.
Well, while my son was raising it, he had to get up early every morning and go take care of it. And then after school, you know, no fun stuff. He had to come home, clean up the pen. So by the end, he hated it. Oh, I should never do it. I'm not going to do this again. Then he took it to the fair, and then he got the money, and he said, "I'm going to do another one." Because I said, "Well, just keep in mind that the fair is kind of a special thing. You're not getting the regular price. You're getting extra price for education.
Yeah.
So you could do another one, but don't expect the same amount every single time." But he didn't. So just the one. But he did name it. It was Kurt.
Ours was Becky.
Well, we lived out in an orchard, so we could set up a pen, and it worked out just fine. So his cousins found out. They said, "Well, we have this actual pen, but we can't put it up because we're in the city limits. We could bring it out, but if you could do that, if we do that, you could keep the pigs for my son's cousins." Okay, so we had 4, and my son's got hurt. Something happened, and it stood on its front feet, and it was something in the back, and it was screaming. So his cousin's mom knew a guy who owned a ranch, and he came out and he said, "I don't know. It could be tetanus or a snake bite. I do have something I can give him, but I'm not a veterinarian, and I cannot guarantee it. And you can't hold me responsible if I do it." And we're desperate. Try it. So he pokes the pig. Within about 10 seconds, the pig just, okay, trots off. Fine. So it must have been something like tetanus. And I thought, I can't wait for this to be over. And then we had 2 fairs because we're in Merced County. So they have a spring fair in Los Banos. And if they make weight, they can go there. If not, you have to wait 2 months later for the big county fair. So, and then you're supposed to, I didn't know see, I thought we got a pig. Oh, we'll just put all the scraps out. No. They have a special diet. You have to buy the food. And it's supposed to increase their musculature. And so that's what they look for in judging and all. So you're not supposed to feed them anything else. But as it got closer, I thought he's not going to make weight. We're going to stuck for pig for 2 more months. So I was sneaking tubs of butter, a little butter out there and trying to get some weight on him. But he made it. Exactly. My granddaughter was reading Charlotte's Web, but she saw the movie and then I picked up the book. Have you ever read it? I mean, I read it, but I was in the 5th grade when I read it. I read it now. I was like, oh, I can't believe they let this in the schools. Because the first thing, he slides a knife across its neck or something like, gee. It's pretty violent, but yeah, you want to eat meat, that's the way it works. So I guess, yeah, well, in the book. So, and the idea was you're setting up what Wilbur's destiny is going to be. Same with Kurt, it was very similar. That is his destiny, but he found another way around it. But then Charlotte dies and everybody cries. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Everything.
Well, anyways, however they do it, it's just.
So good. I'm not a fan of that.
Is that what people think about when they eat bacon? No. No, it comes out of this package in the grocery store. Right.
My dad worked at a dairy, so he was given the cows that were males. And so we have to barbecue them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean.
And that's when they got their names.
Yes.
Mhm.
That was my mom's stuff, the females. If they're not
Is there anybody in the office?
Well, I don't think so. Usually not. I'll say that. There may be occasionally.
Because I just came to the this is girl.
Yeah, she's been there.
It's a girl that has been sitting there on the sidewalk, and I think she's been there since they got out. I asked her.
I saw her. I think I know who you meant. She had a like pink laptop.
Yes.
Yeah. She's still there.
Oh, I could go find custodians and they can call security. I used to have security's number.
She said that she already called her mom, but then she said that her sister's coming to pick her up, but.
Yeah.
Because it's been there since, what time? 12?
Let me just go run over and find them because if I don't, and then I see something happen tomorrow in the newspaper, I feel really bad.
She's right there when she
Yeah.
walked out, yeah. I asked her. She said, no, my sister's coming to me. She looked like she would. And me too, when I was something, I'm like, no, just say something. And it looks like she already had an orange, because there's orange pills or carrots or something, because there's like some.
For some reason, that the air is starting to go.
It's the timer, so like at 6 probably it starts, it turns off.
Yeah.
Cause I heard it turn off. It's just like,
This is the thing.
Okay, security goes sit with her until she gets picked up. She's going now, so that'll be good. Because she was still there. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. Like I said, I feel terrible. We could have stopped it and something happened. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go to our vendors. Let's make 3 purchase orders, receive the bills, and pay the bills. So go to vendors. So this will give us a chance to stock up. Yes, so go to vendors, and then on the corner, you do that pick the drop down list here because it's going to say bill, create bill. I know. I told you if I could change it, I would. So don't blame me.
You said 3, right?
3, yeah, 1, 2, 3. So 3, create purchase order. Okay. It's under get paid and pay. We're going to do 3. Yeah. You already do? We're going to create purchase orders first. So in the top here, like mine says 0 purchase orders. I want to create 3 from 3 different vendors. You do have to use the pick list to find the create purchase order. And pick any item, any products that you like. Yeah. If you're low on something, here's a good chance to get caught up. Yes. Or like I said yesterday, you can do save and new and then pick the next one from the list. And the same rule applies here. If you want to do more than one from a single vendor, you certainly can by using these two lines.
It just says schedule payments, make payments, create expense, but it doesn't. Like this one did it.
Okay, so. No. So. Well, you should always be able to do a new purchase order. Back. So what I did, go ahead and click on Max. This is all the Max data, right? See this new transaction up here? That one. That's a purchase order. There you go. So now why does it do that? That's a new one. I'll have to look into that, but you can get to it. Like I said, on all these things, you can get to them in different ways.
Oh, okay.
So what's the phrase? More than.
Do the same with the other one, right?
Yeah, I think so, until I can figure that out. Because that should be an all or nothing, either no purchase orders. I mean, you can turn off the purchase orders in the settings, but then it shouldn't let you do any of them. But I'm going to do my last one your way. So what happened was when she went to the list here, she couldn't find purchase orders from the list. So we clicked on the customer information, and there's always this new transaction button in the upper corner. And then you can do a purchase order from here. So why it would let you do it here, but not from the other place, I don't know. You broke it. Now they're going to have to shut down QuickBooks for everybody until they fix it. Well, it's not impossible for you to find a certain sequence of doing things that causes a problem. It's still a relatively new version of QuickBooks, so I'm sure there's still bugs being worked out. But like I said, as long as it shows up where you can get to it from here. Okay, so I just did a purchase order for this one, and see, I can do another one. In fact, we were doing that accidentally, doing 2 purchase orders for 1 vendor. So yeah, there shouldn't be any rule against that. Okay, so I got my purchase orders. Now I'm going to create the bill. Just add, get rid of the advertisement. And this time I'm going to save a new because I know my 3 vendors. Once you have the vendor, you can click on this blue button that says purchase orders, and then you'll see here, create bill.
And then just add.
And then you can save and close or save and new, either way, whichever you prefer to do. There it is. And I'm going to save a new, just to be different, but also because I noticed my computer is a little slow. So this will go faster. Yeah, much faster. And that was number 3, so I'm going to save and close. So they're done. I'm going to go to my 3 open bills. And then I'm going to make payment for each one of those. So they're going to pay me off. Once again, I can do save and close or save and new. This time I'm going to do save and new. Because when I picked my vendors, I just did the bottom 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. And on the last one, save and close. So to make sure I paid them correctly, I'll take a look at my checking account. So we go to the chart of accounts. View register. Today's February 1st, and there they are.
When the open bills, what do you get to those?
Receive payment. You can click on the open bills, and it should show receive payment.
Expense?
No, you should be able to create payment. So I click on the open bills, and the ones that have an outstanding balance, I only have 1 left. Click on make payment here. And by the way, so here's it comes a little more editorializing. Do you notice, like this is the only one I need to make a payment on? So QuickBooks, the programmers were smart enough to put this on the top. So again, why can't they create purchase orders on the top if I'm using purchase orders all over the place? I'm not yelling at you, I'm yelling at the programmers who can't hear me and probably don't care because they get paid more than I do. But I don't get it. If you could do this, why can't you do that? And here's the thing, if QuickBooks doesn't do it, Peachtree will. And then they'll advertise, we're much friendlier than QuickBooks. And that would be ironic. So you should see this bill payment. It's my last one, so I'll save and close. And then when I look at my chart of accounts, go to my general checking, look at the register. If I look at my balances, I spend money, then I make money. So I think, oh, I'm doing well, but then I got to go spend more money. And now I'm back down to 9,500 out of that 10,000 original balance. So what's the answer? Have some sales. So once you get that done, let's go make some sales. So we'll start off with our invoices. So today's class is brought to you by the number 3. Let's do 3 invoices.
To do invoices, where do you go to?
Customers.
No, I went to the actual invoice. It says invoices.
Okay, you can.
What do you think?
Yes. However, the difference is if you do it that way, it's like going up here to new and you'll see invoices. You can do it that way. The only difference is you can't pick your vendor or your customer ahead of time. So you're picking it from the list, which is in this class, it's fine. In the real world, it'd be fine too, because you would have, say, a purchase order from, like in my case, Merry Christmas or one of your customers. So you would know the name. So you can start with a blank invoice and just select your name from the list.
So if you do it that way, how do you go to the action?
So like, okay, so the way I'm doing it is I went to new in the upper left-hand corner here.
Oh, create.
Yeah.
Just go back to-
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I wanted to learn this.
once you learn it one way, it's hard to get around. But just so you know, there are shortcuts. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to start using QuickBooks. And then 2 years later, you're going to go back to me and say, you know what? There was a shortcut at the top. All I had to do was click new all the time. You always made me go back to customers. I'll bet you didn't know that. And I'll say, yeah, glad you found it. It's like my son used to hate lettuce. Then he met a girlfriend who made him eat salads. And then he told us how great salads are. We're like, what? We've been saying that for years. But that's okay. As long as he discovered salads, that's what counts. So in this case, see, this is just a completely empty invoice. The only difference is I just have to pick the customer from here. But once again, I can do save and new. So to record this invoice, bring up a blank one, and I pick the customer from this list again and just keep going on until I get all 3.
But I mean, I saved and closed it,
Mhm.
and then it brought me back to where there's a red box and it says enter email. I didn't enter it before.
Make sure it doesn't say send later here. Make sure that click check mark is off. Oh yeah, see.
Oh,
Yeah. That's when you can't send it because you don't have any.
okay. But when you make mistakes, that's how you learn.
Right. And they say if you do something 7 times, you're more likely to remember it. That's supposedly why there's 7 digits on the phone number.
And we're gonna receive payments then?
Yes, please. Receive the payments from the customers. So again, I'm going to save a new each time. But you can go back. As long as you're open to learning new ways, if they're faster once you become familiar with one way. Sometimes people get stuck. And I gave you the example of one person who insists to use the drop-down lists, even though the icons work just as well. But it's also like the story of the man who saw his wife making a ham for Christmas. So she pulled out a pan, she took the ham, she sliced off the end and threw it away. And he said, "How can we do that?" She says, "Oh, that's the way I learned it. That's the way you do it." He said, "I never heard of that." She said, "Well, that's what my mom taught me, so go ask her." So next time he saw her mom, he said, "So tell me, why do you slice off the ham end and throw it away?" She said, "That's always the way I made it. That's the way I learned it. Ask her grandma, she'll tell you." So he went to the grandma and said, "So why do you always slice off the end of the ham and throw it away before you cook it?" She said, "Well, my pan's only this big." All right, so there we go. Yeah. And if you haven't set off the smoke detector, you're not really a cook. You got to set off the smoke detector a few times. All right, so here's your payment. Save by check. And again, I'm going to do save and new, partially because it's a little faster, but also because my computer is slowing down. But I could also save and close, go back, click on it. I just have to remember who owes me money, but I did them 1, 2, 3 again, so that makes it really easy. But in a real world scenario, you would have, like I'd have her check. This is a paper check. It's going to have her name right on it. I also have to manually put in how much she's paying. So when I normally do it, this pops up, but I can see here, here's the amount. And again, she's paying everything off. So there's a couple things you have to do a little bit more when you do receive payment, save and new. But the good news is, watch what happens if I don't put an amount in. I try to save and new. Something's not right. What's not right? Well, I don't have any amount to apply here. I don't show that she sent anything. So she wrote a check with 0 on it. And the computer knows that does not make sense. And save and close.
Right, the 690 on the top, they don't automatically write it on the description.
Yes, let me go to let's turn the filter off. Now go to my checking account. Let's take a look at that transaction. So look at my check register. So here was the transaction. I'm going to edit it. When these show up blank, you see the amount received. In this case, it's a paper check. So I'm keying it in off whatever's written on the check. So I said 690. I hit the tab key, well, because I'm editing, but the computer says, oh, we've got 690 here. That's under this amount or equal to, so I'll just fill it in for you. So it filled it in here. Okay. It is possible she didn't pay 690. It's also possible to do this. Here's what I do all the time. I get in a hurry. Okay, 690. So I did switch the last two numbers. Well, that's totally off. So it would put it down here and then show that she still owes in a balance. And then when she gets a statement, she's gonna call me up and say, Dan, did you transpose the last two numbers on my check again? Because I got a bill for what's left, 8 cents, or I guess we 81 cents. So it does matter. That's the advantage of using it from the customer screen, is it's pre-filled. Then you can override it if she didn't write it. So if she only paid half, remember like we did this before, okay, that's okay. Let's see how it filled it in. If that's what really happened, but it'll pop up automatically with the outstanding balance. The other thing that can happen is she could owe me $6.90, but she's only going to pay $3.04 because down here, instead of zero, there she could have a credit in my store. And we're going to get into credits next week. So a credit occurs if I owe her money for some reason. And usually it's like a return. And you know, you go to the store and they say, we'll give you a refund if you have a receipt, but if you don't, we'll give you a store credit. Well, that's what you're doing. Then you got to come back and buy something to use it up. So the computer will remember that she has a credit and automatically apply it. Yeah, that's one of the settings we saw, to automatically apply any outstanding credits. Now, none of our customers have had credits yet, but when they do, the computer will try to automatically do it. And if you don't want it to work that way, you can turn that off. But that's why these numbers are flexible. And then one of our students worked at a place where she started doing the accounts receivable, and you know, there was all of the bills were like $300, $400, $100 ranges. So she got to one and he dropped $10. So it's $10 short. And so she asked her supervisor, you know, what do I do about that? And they, oh yeah, that happens sometimes. Just go ahead and write it off. And you know, we'll show you how to do that too. So she did, you know, $10 not worth going after. But she got curious. So she pulled up his account. Now they were using the computer, but they hadn't converted all their files over. So they had a physical file folder, pulled it out. He had done that, you know, like 3 out of 4 times. On every single payment, he was cutting some money off. So, you know, it's okay once if it's an accident, that's understandable. But somebody who's doing it thinking they're trying to sneak up and get an extra discount. So she said, I'm so glad you looked this up. I had no idea. Can you do me a favor? Do a spreadsheet, do all amounts that he's owed from as far back as you can find. I'm gonna send him a letter. So she did. She sent him a letter and said, we noticed that your payments have been short consistently. We really can't have customers doing that. So we'll give you an option here. If you pay the balance that you owe, seen below, but the attached spreadsheet, we will go ahead and call it even. If not, we're going to start charging late fees and backdate the late fees from, I forgot how far back. So he paid. He knew what he was doing. So that's a little much. Hopefully you don't run into that. And we're talking earlier about the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people are good. 20 or maybe even fewer can make it just difficult. All right, so when you're done, all your customers should have balances of 0. And no open balances, all good. All right, so now let's do something new we worked on yesterday. Just to make them different, let's do 4 sales receipts. You can pick any customer, any products. Go back to customers, and if you use that drop-down list, you'll see sales receipts. So here with customers, instead of create invoice now though, this is the scenario where they come in and they buy something in the store and they pay for it before they leave. So they're going to get a receipt. So by using this pick list, I can create sales receipt. And not to confuse you, but just to inform you, once again, you can always, if you're in a customer, this new transaction will also show sales receipts. Okay, if you're, don't go to the customer. Let's go back to customers here. Not up here, only if you've opened the customer file. It's like Mary, I have to click on her. And then it says new transaction, and then I can pick the transaction. But if that's confusing, the other way to do it, sales receipt. Or you can click it here and find sales receipt. Here, I'm going to do, start with Roger.
So what's the action?
You're going to create sales receipt, and then here's your customer. You can put the customer in from this list. And again, you're going to sell them something, but this time they're not going to send a separate check. You're going to accept the check now as you're creating this. So you'll see the payment method. Here's the check.
But I don't go there.
Okay, let's try. Okay, so did you start here or did you go into the? Okay, so in this list, make sure you create sales receipt. Got that? You know what? Do it again. This time when you click, see how it turned green? Now try. Right. So click the refresh. You know what we might do is it break, log out, close the window, bring it up again, log back in. So, yeah. So it's kind of like your purchase order. It shouldn't do that. But it is. So yeah. So now, see, here's the payment. But say check number, and then whatever she's buying here. So before. Yeah, make up the check number. Hit the tab. Okay. Yeah. So I use the tab key, and now that keyboard. So yeah, I think it's sticking. So I think it's a good idea to restart the computer. You can finish. You can try it. Yeah, but see how it flashes a little bit? So yeah, I think it needs to restart. Okay. So on the keyboard, tab over. So right now it's on the tag, so we hit the space bar. That's the same as a click. Do a restart. Over here. Have you ever run the disk cleaner? Oh, I'll show you how to do that. That's handy. On all the programs, including QuickBooks, you know, it stores things on the hard disk. And as it's storing your information, it doesn't always store it right in a row. So what'll happen is, the disk is a circle. So when you delete something, it makes like this space here available. So when storing something, it'll store a file and it'll go, okay, I've got room here. Oh, there's something there. I better skip over. So, oh, got some space over here. So now every time it needs to access that data, it has to go here and then jump there. In that jump, it's fast, but if you do a lot of jumps, it starts slowing things down. So it's called disk defragmentation. You run it, takes like 30 minutes or so, and the computer goes through and cleans everything up. It puts everything in its right order so it runs faster. And that's a way you can speed up a slow computer. I can show you how to do that, but it actually won't let me do that because the IT department here didn't give me the authority to do that. You have to call them if you want it done. But on your computer, you can. If you own it, you can do it. Yeah.
Would you have a way of finding out if, each customer, what they bought from us? If they've been buying?
Sure. Just double click on any customer name and it shows you the report. It shows you all the transactions. If you want to show the items, you can go into the reports and there's that customer sales by detail, not summary. If you go back to business overview, yeah, here, and then reports. And then as you scroll down, you'll see the customers. Sales and customers. And so over on the right-hand side, sales by customer detail. Oh, this is a good chance to look, right? Remember what I said yesterday? It's going to show you this month to date. Well, this month is a pretty short month. It's only day 1 of February. So for Mary, you can see, here's what she bought today, or here's what they bought today. Mary bought the deluxe teddy bear, Roger bought fidget spinners. But if I want to see everything, because we switched over the month, I have to go up to the top here. Instead of this month to date, I can say all dates. And when you select it, you always have to it should say rerun report, but basically it says run report. And it's going to run it. And there's everything that Mary bought. And how many? Everything that you go to the business overview on the left-hand side there. And then when you click on it, it'll say reports. And then you got to scroll down because they're grouped by types. And then there's sales and customers on the left side there. So this is the group. And then over here, sales by customer detail. Summary will just give you the bottom line numbers. Detail gives you everything. And then I notice I only see February dates here. So I can use this pick list. Or if I want to cheat, it's not cheating, but I don't have to use their dates. I can use the calendar and say since January 2nd. Click run report. And that encompasses everything.
Reports.
Okay.
So, what I don't know.
So there's, yeah, yeah. It's even though customers owe you, this report's not in that category. Who owes you? We're in the sales and customers report. And then over here on the second column. And by the way, if you like this report, see this little star, the green star? I can click that and make it a favorite. Now, see when I start off at the top, it shows my favorites first. and I can just run it from there. The only thing is you can't have too many favorites. If you put too many favorites up there, then you've kind of defeated the whole purpose. So I'll just change it to all, run report. And there we go. So as I mentioned before, it's all based on the accrual method. But if you run it by cash, I don't think it's going to change anything because we're getting our payments. Yeah, so it didn't change anything because we're getting our payments right away. But if we had customers who are waiting their 30 days to pay, then you would see the cash basis be a lower number than the accrual basis. But in this case, they're exactly the same. Okay. By the way, I'm going to click on this back to report list. You could do the same thing for your vendors.
Previously was what?
We're doing like a month again, I'm sorry, when you do a month, you run the report. And you look at it.
You can change it to all because our current month is February, which is
Press send to all.
Yeah.
And then run report.
right. So here's the vendor equivalent, and the same deal applies at the top. This month to date is only 1 day. So I switch it to all and then run report. And here's every transaction I've done with the vendor since we started.
So the sales by customer detail report, then you went to your vendors.
Yeah, just to see the equivalent to the vendors. So you can always go back to the report list. And if you scroll down further, you'll see all the vendor reports. And the vendor reports have the same one here, the same type, I should say. Went too far. Purchases by product service detail or purchases by vendor detail. So it shows me each vendor. If you want to see the products as you order them, you can use this one.
How do I find what the top selling product is for all of them?
Right now, that would be I would do the summary. So go back to the report list. And then as you scroll down.
Also under customer?
Yeah, I think this one does show under customers. It also shows under vendors. And it's sales by product. And I would do the summary on this one.
By product service detail?
You can do the detail, but I think the summary would be easier to find the top product. So I want to click I want to make this big. I would do the summary. Because see here, again, I got to show all. Here, it'll give you a breakdown right here, percentage of sales. So teddy bears, 46% of my sales.
Okay, so now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, now if you go and you can make it a favorite. So you could run the detail, but watch what happens. Sales by product and service detail. Oh, gotta do all. See, it breaks it down, but it shows you all the sales. And it's a little harder to find the sales. This is the sales by product service detail. Yeah, that's what I would use. All right, it is 7 o'clock. It's break time. We'll take a break and be back in 10 minutes. And I need to finish my sales receipts. Hey, you can always do more. Yeah.
I mean, it's just that I need the time to just to go in there and click every little
Well, you have access to it at home. So if you want to practice, just even while you're watching TV, say, I'll just do an invoice, and you pull it up and do an invoice. You can always don't ever feel like, well, Dan only told me to do 3, so I better not do any more. The more you do, the easier it gets.
Yeah, when I have been moving it, you know, I've been super busy. But yes. Yeah, I think it's just like Victor is clicking on it.
Yeah, and it doesn't. There's nothing you can do that will hurt anything, and anything you can do here, we can fix it. Well, I shouldn't say that. The one thing would be is if you tied in your real bank account or put a credit card in there. Hey, what happens if I do put my credit card in here? Okay, now then you start causing problems.
Are we going to? Well, I mean, we can't because we would need it.
I can show you how to do it. We just can't, actually do the credit card.
I mean, because that's an option, either cash, check, or credit card.
Well, here's the deal. So right now, that's what I'm doing. So I could say this was a credit card payment without having to have any credit card system set up. Because remember, this is not generating the transaction with the bank. This is recording a transaction that occurred at the bank. So here, when it comes up, I can say it was a credit card if I want to. So it's not going to activate any cards. It's only up here when you actually do tie a card in that it will generate the transaction in real life.
Okay, so is this like, for instance, the business only uses a credit card for purchases and all that, then that's where we would put credit card, because you said
That would be with the vendors.
That would be with the vendors?
Yeah. So we'll set up a fake credit card, but to actually tie in a credit card would be a problem, because then
So we would put in our own bank credit card.
Yeah.
Oh, but
not for real. Well, so okay, there's 2 ways you can use a credit card. You can receive credit card payments. I happen to be my customers, so that's what I'm saying I'm doing. I'm saying let's say we have a website and it doesn't tie into my QuickBooks. So every transaction on the website, I have to make a sales receipt for, right? So Walgreens just bought teddy bears, 12 of them, and they use their card, right? So I can say here, the payment method was a credit card. And then usually on a credit card, you'll get some kind of confirmation number. So I might want to include that here and save and close. So that'll work, right? When you're receiving credit card payments, because I'm just recording it. I'm not actually pulling Walgreens credit card and charging it, right? That's already occurred. I'm just reflecting that in QuickBooks.
okay, so if you go out to a customer and you do a service call and they use a credit card, then you have a little machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so it recorded on the machine, but then you have to put it into your QuickBooks.
That's the way I just did it. Now, what's gonna happen is when you get the square, they're gonna tell you it ties into QuickBooks. So then you don't have to do this. It'll happen automatically.
Oh,
Yeah. As soon as you run it, and it'll say, ding, would you like me to email you your receipt? Yes. And if you got that tied into QuickBooks, it would automatically generate the receipt I just made manually and drop them an email, and they'll get in their email. And you say, ooh, that was fun. Give me your card. I want to do it again. Yeah. So on the vendor side, when you pay a bill, again, we can set up a credit card account in our chart of accounts, but it won't be active, obviously. On the other hand, you could do the same thing with your vendors. You can use that little square thing, or even set up the credit card account in QuickBooks to do the transaction, a live transaction. But again, you gotta be careful with that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I took QuickBooks when I went to school, but that was, oh my God, it was old QuickBooks. When I was 18. Oh, it's a long, long time ago. Now it looks completely different. So there's certain things that I need to learn. Especially payroll.
when you do that?
APAR, how does you will accounts payable, payroll, I do everything.
Where at here?
Yeah.
Where the district?
No, for a company.
You must love your job.
I love
See,
it.
that's what they say, you gotta-
Well, this, you gotta love it, otherwise you'll be, my husband hates this, so he's like, I don't know. I can't do it.
Because you already got it. I mean, what as like what he does, I mean, he already knows how to manage it, how to do this, how to look for.
Yeah, but there was a time when I had to learn and it was
Yeah.
and I used to mess up transactions.
And play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like everything, I think, it's like everything, like, you know, a lot of people would like to book and because they don't want to do it.
Yeah. But you know, once you get good at this, then ask for a raise because they can't let you go because you know it all.
So do you have
But
any
except that's my,
No, I work for somebody, but I'm like his personal assistant, like I do quotes, I do contracts, I like estimates, I do everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you know the trade and all that. You do that estimates?
Well, people tell me like we need to do a fixed order, so order the material and send them the quote. Because we work for a company, so they provide the material with the. So this is how much it's gonna cost you and this is what I need.
I can imagine just telling my husband telling me, you need to do this and I'm like, what? Because he has to look at plans and everything, you know, so he has to draw the design.
Right.
And everything.
When it is something like we do modular buildings, like this. So one tree fell off on one of the trailers with the rain in San Francisco. So that one, I don't get involved. He has to go see it, look at everything that needs to get replaced, and then he will do it himself. Because that's like, that's
No,
a
no, no,
lot.
no.
But if it's a window, it's a door, it's ceiling carpet.
Oh,
I did some tutoring on for a couple. They were a husband and wife, and she wanted to do all the bookkeeping, and so she was learning QuickBooks and how to get everything into QuickBooks. So she said, "Oh, this is great. This is going to save me a lot of time." She said, "Well, okay, I got a problem. I don't know if QuickBooks can help me." I said, "Okay, what is it?" She said, "My husband takes the checkbook, then he writes a check, and he never tells me about it, and then I don't find out till 2 months later or something. Can QuickBooks help me with that?" I said, "No. There's this there's a thing in computers. It's called GIGO, GIGO, meaning garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put the correct information in there, there's really no way the computer can fix it." But I said, "Here's what you could do. You guys keep the checkbook in one location?" "Yes." I said, "Move it." He keeps one. What he does, he keeps a check in his wallet for emergencies. He'll use it and then go get another one. I said, "Well, hide the checkbook every time, a different spot, and say, 'Oh, I'm sorry, I left it in the drawer.' Now you know he used the check, so he's looking for another check. Before you let him go, say, 'So what was the check for?'" Yeah, try to get it that way. I said the other thing too is, especially nowadays, if your bank account is active and you have it on the computer, you can always look it up. And now for a lot of places, when they run the checks, they go through the check systems and it's processed and shows you your bank account right away.
I have access to the bank account, so I know, because my boss has this personal, like, it's like a checkbook apart from the one I have from the checks. So I'm like, oh, where is the receipt for this check? I have to do that because he forgets sometimes too.
It's a lot of managing with.
Or receipts, the receipts through me are the worst because he loses them all.
Yep. That
So now, like for gas, I tell him, send me a picture as soon as you put gas.
yeah,
So that's what
There you
I
go,
tell
good.
him to do.
good
So the
idea.
gas receipts disappear for some reason.
So that's your husband?
No, it's not. No, my husband and I will never work together.
yeah. I mean,
No, we'll kill each other. I'll divorce him. We've been married for almost 16 years. I know, I don't want to get a divorce now.
Well, in today's email, I put a couple things in the news, and one is just about, we're talking about how people who do gig work, so like Uber and things like that, lose a lot of money because they don't keep track of those receipts. And all you need to do is get a little envelope and just shove them in there. Just do that, and then make your bookkeeper go through them at the end of the year. Ideally, though, just do that and then have a spreadsheet. And whatever you do, every morning or at the end of the day, just log it, just so you have it in there. And with the spreadsheet, you can sort by date, you can sort by amounts. If you're, you don't have to put a lot of information in, and it's still very helpful. However, easier said than done. But it's like anything, it's a habit. And if you get somebody in the habit, it'll work.
Yeah, I actually bought him a little stuff. Just turn it in at the end of the week.
There you go.
I bought mine so many different things, 40 in the files and that go by the month and everything. It just doesn't. Finally, he brought me a shoebox, but everything's all scrunched
Yeah,
up.
crunched up.
That's what-
Yeah, look at mine.
that's what I'm saying.
And when they go to the washing machine, you go, okay, what was this? And you try to pry it open.
But can you, okay, so if he's using like the bank, ATM card,
Yes,
it'll show there that he purchased.
great.
Yeah, so that I can use that. I
Right.
don't need the receipt?
Yeah, the bank
I
will
don't
count.
need the receipt.
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I'm shaking my head, yes, but no, you do not. You don't have to have the receipt. It's good to have it in case you have an audit, but keep your bank statements, because the bank has no skin in the game, so they don't care whether you did it or not, and they're just recording the transaction, so they're independent. So if you ever get audited, you can look at that, and they'll take the bank's word for it. Some cards now too, mostly credit cards, but even debit cards will categorize your expenses for you. So if it's at a restaurant, it'll know it's a restaurant, and it'll put it in the food section. And when you see the report, you see here's food, here's gas, here's supplies, and other things.
I know, or sometimes I'll get a notification from the bank and then I'll call him and I said, did you get this? And then he goes, what, are you keeping tabs on me? And I said, no, it's just that.
Tell him,
I
tell
keep
him,
tabs on
yes,
everybody.
I am, all the time. That's my job.
So I do that, and I'm a management of the business. I'm just like, what did you spend? I see you went and took out $100. What was it for?
Yeah. And yesterday he sent money to 325 to Mexico. And I said, well, on the bank statement or the statement shit that says Miami, Florida. And then he says, what? I didn't send it over there. I sent it, to Mexico. And so I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, but the transaction took place.
Right, that's what it'll do. It could be the company name, it could be the transaction,
Yeah.
it could be an intermediary. Yeah, so that happens too. A lot of the transactions, they sometimes put too much information, like this long little code and things. And then it says, call this number if you really want to know what it is. This is my paranoia kicking in. I think some places do that on purpose. Like it's a recurring transaction. They don't really want you to think about it or have to say, well, it's only $10. I'm not going to call the number. So that way they can keep doing it. But I don't know. Today, especially, it shouldn't be that hard to summarize what the transaction was for. By the way, did you hear about the TikTok challenge? The 100 envelope TikTok challenge? 100 envelope TikTok challenge. It's a way to save money. What you do is you get 100 envelopes and you number them 1 to 100. On day one, you take out the first envelope and put in $1. Day two, take out the second envelope, put in $2. And you do that till you're running out of them to the end of the envelopes. And it's a forced savings. And what happens is, for a lot of people, they don't realize how much money they spend just during the day. So you're taking money out of your wallet, cash. So no IOUs. So the cash goes in, you don't have it, then you don't realize, right? Like I don't have $5 that I had yesterday. So you go and spend, and then when you run out of money, oh, okay, I better not buy it because I'm out of cash. So it's a way to save money. No interest, of course.
You end up saving $1,000?
5,000, 550, right?
And 100 days.
50,
In 100 days?
100 days. Because it goes 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. And it's going to be $50 in one day, and then 51 the next day. You could cut it in half if you don't want to hit that $50 mark. Or the other thing they do is they take them out. Now, first of all, it's TikTok. It's not a scientific thing. It's just an idea. I think it's good to hear about. That's an interesting way to save, to make you think about when you're spending money. Yeah. So the other technique they show is they take the envelopes and they shuffle them. So you never know what tomorrow is going to be. When you go tomorrow and pull the envelope, you could be the $3 envelope, or it could be the 100 envelope. So I'm sure if it's a 100 envelope, you say, okay, let's put that in the back. I'm pulling another one.
I've heard of the 59 weeks where you're putting in money and, but you don't get the 50/50, you get a lot less, but I want the 50/50.
There's all kinds of things. There's a, I think it's a card. I think it's, I forget who it was. Anyway, they made a big deal about it. It's the round up. And so what it does, it rounds up your money and then puts it into another account every transaction. So if you buy something for $19.95, yeah, 5 cents goes into the transaction fund. No, I don't do it. Excuse me. I think it's a Citibank. Well, yeah, and who knows? If it's successful, I'm sure everybody's doing it. Chime. If you go into the different credit cards, it'll show you them. Yeah, see, there's apps.
Yeah.
And it's not the best way to save money, but if you've tried everything else, then it's kind of an enforced way. You have the computers doing the work for you. So sometimes it goes like into an investment fund. You can do that.
So that's 100 days. I can do it for that.
You can do it for 50. You won't get as much, but just,
Yeah, no,
Just to try.
yeah.
And he
Well,
doesn't need to know.
So do you know?
I'm saying it only
Yeah.
because he likes to go to Mexico and he likes to take money. So if he doesn't know that I'm doing this and then I tell him, oh, you want to take this amount of money? Where did you get that from? Or whatever, you know, because I saved this up, you know, so, I mean, it's not, I'm not keeping it from myself.
Right? So some companies, every year they make people redo their W-2 information just because things change. And that's the other thing is you'll have some kind of change, a life change. Like you have a new kid. Well, yeah, you got to go back and do the W-4 to include that because now that changes your taxes. But people don't think about that. So they make every employee do it every year. It just becomes a habit. And then at that point, you can capture the change. Otherwise, you can be surprised at the end. The other thing you can do with your W-4 is you can ask for additional withholding. You can ask them to withhold as much as you want. That will work, but there's no interest. You're giving Uncle Sam a free loan. So the federal government gets extra money. And I told a friend of mine about that. And I said, you know, you're a single guy. You should really fix that. He said, yeah, I should, but I don't want it. I said, why? Don't you want the money? You get it, but you have to wait till April 15th. He said, I know, but if I have it throughout the year, I'll spend it. I know me. This comes like a gift on April 15th. And I said, well, if you put it into just an interest-bearing account, you get something extra. Nope. He said, if I have access to it, I'll spend it. So this way it keeps it out of my hands. I get this big refund on April 15th. I get all happy and I can go out and buy a computer. Yeah. So that was his idea. And it worked. Not the wisest way, but it worked. All right. So speaking of our accounts, let's go to our chart of accounts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new account, a couple of them. So we're going to set up a savings account, and we're also going to set up a petty cash account, even though we've got a cash on hand. Let's do one as petty cash by itself. So at the top where it says new on the chart of accounts, click on new. And if you remember, we did this for our checking account. So the first one is petty cash. Under category name, it's going to be a bank account, even though it's not at a bank. It could be our shoebox. Yeah. So you're going to do new up here, and then the name is going to be petty cash, and then it's going to be select category. And even though it sounds funny, is here. And you're going to go into bank. Yeah, even though it's not with a bank, your box is the bank, whatever you're keeping it. Petty cash. Yes, go ahead, select. So like that, petty cash. It's cash on hand. And then it's today's date. But we're going to leave it at a zero balance. Yeah. And then if you wanted to, you could put an account for small items. That's where the word petty comes in. It's not that it's vengeful money. It's that it's just little things. So we had a balance of zero. The reason is we want to practice transferring balances. But here it is. So I've got a balance of zero. It gets a register just like our check. Yep. And then it will show on your chart of accounts. And it gets a register just like our checking account does. And you'll see it's grouped together. When I click on it, pretty cash. Okay, so if you do make a mistake like that, well, I don't know, if you want to keep it that way, that'd be kind of fun. But you can always edit. Well, now if everybody else wants to call yours pretty cash. Yeah, fix the spelling and then save. At our in our longer programs, we do it's a funny money program. It's just money we made up, like Monopoly money. And if students do well on a test, they earn $100,000. And then the big graduation, we have an auction of different items. And then whoever the highest bid wins. So well, sometimes when we have the QuickBooks class, we'll have them put it in as funny money. And I remind everybody, if you're creating accounts, don't ever call one funny money. So you can call it pretty cash here, but I wouldn't do that for a business because sometimes auditors don't have a sense of humor. So they'll understand petty cash, but yeah, I understand. On the other hand, so this other school that I know, the owner, we were in similar programs from the state, and every year they required an audit, and they'd send an auditor down, and they'd give us a list of things they wanted to see and go through them. He would do something like that. He would have a misspelling, so they'd find something, because his thought was they're going to keep looking till they find something. Otherwise, they were afraid they missed something and can't give a report. So he would intentionally make errors, just little things for them to catch. And then he would go through and say, oh yeah, you're right, we'll fix that right now. And that way, he thought that made it easier for him. I don't know. Okay. So you can create all kinds of accounts. Let's do another one under new here. We're going to call this savings. And the category again is going to be a bank. This time it is actually the bank. And you'll see under account type, we've got savings. I went to new. So I'm going to create another new one. Okay, so yeah. Yes, under its category here, it is going to be a bank. Bank and credit cards. Select. Then down here, account type is savings. So you've got three different things. 1, 2, 3, like that. Today's date 0, because we're going to do a transfer. Okay. So again, if you had multiple savings accounts, like one at Wells Fargo, one at Bank of America, you can make a note here. You can even put it in the name, so it shows on the list and makes it easier to find. But we're only going to have one. Right? Zero. No.
Description?
No.
So just say.
Safe.
So you can have several banks then? or-
Sure.
It's not
Under,
round account?
no, because it just, for me, I wouldn't do it because it gives you more headaches. You got to track all these accounts. But like my dad had one from Texas, even though we lived in California, but he always wanted to keep it because it was his first account. It's from Texas and he liked it. So, okay, but this is one more account you got to track somehow. And you could do that here. In this license, you can do up to 250. And as you can see, the numbers already going up. It actually is lying. This is the time I have to do refresh. It says you're using 2, actually should say 3. So I'll refresh it. And then it will tell me I'm up to 3. But if what'll happen is sometimes a bank will say, you can have a checking account with us, but we're going to charge you $7 a month for the privilege, unless you have a savings account along with it. And then you promise to do let us do a transaction, a transfer of $100 or whatever it is, maybe 1,000 from your checking to your savings every month. You say, fine. And then what you do is you log in and then you set up a recurring transaction that if you know they're always going to do the 1,000 from your checking to your savings on the 5th, on the 7th of every month, you say, I'm going to transfer it back. That's fine. The bank said, it didn't say you couldn't transfer it back. It didn't say you had to hold it there. So that fits. So then you see you already got 2 accounts to get the 1 account for free to save the $7 every month. So they'll do that. And then if it was like 5 years ago, Wells Fargo, they were just adding accounts to people, whether they knew it or not, because they had incentivized their salespeople that you get a bonus the more accounts you set up. So, if they're setting up your checking account, they might ask you, wouldn't the savings account be good too? Would that be handy? And, the person say, yeah, but I'll think about it. Oh, you said, yeah. So once they leave, okay, I'll just add it. And they were doing a lot of that without the customer's direct permission. So you can have as many accounts as you like. If you go over that 250 amount, you have to pay more for your license. But if you got that many checking and savings accounts, you probably need a bigger license anyway, because that's a lot of stuff. If you were dealing with certain states, you might want to have an account in that state for the branch, especially have multiple branches or something like that. So that would be a good thing. Plus, of course, now today there's PayPal and all these other ones. And then PayPal can be directly linked to your checking. So use the PayPal system. And then if you don't have enough money in your PayPal account, it automatically debits your checking account, which again, that starts getting a little confusing. But it's convenient. Can also make a difference when you're dealing with it, because I said every credit card transaction that you as a vendor process, you're going to pay a small percentage. So PayPal didn't have that percentage, and that's how they were able to get around and get into companies. Yeah, there's PayPal and Venmo and Zelle. There it goes. Ouch. Yeah, and then it's convenient, but it makes it easier. So there's my 3.
But you can have it transferred to your bank account.
Mhm.
Stays at
Well,
zero.
that's what it is. If you have your bank account linked to the vendor, it's easier for them to get it out of your bank.
Oh, really?
I was reading a story about this woman was jogging, and these kids, was kind of like, we had the girl out here where it said, oh, my mom was supposed to pick us up and she's not here. And it's getting dark, we're getting scared. Can I use your phone to call her? And she said, sure. She gave her the phone over. He goes, hey, Mom, are you coming? Okay. Oh, good. She's right around the corner. Here. What he had done is he took her Venmo and transferred, I think it was like $300 to his account, and then handed it back. And she didn't notice because he did it so fast. He really didn't need to get a phone ride. He never used the phone. He did it just so he could transfer the money out of her account. But the thing is, they caught it. And then if it's fraud, some of the credit card company, and I guess Venmo, will refund you while they go through it.
Alert saying somebody from I don't know what country is trying to access your account, and I'm like, what? No. You did everything.
Yeah, we had one. They used our account to try to buy some equipment or something. I guess they bought it. So the bank said, okay, we'll refund it. I said, well, don't you want to know more about it? Oh, this happens all the time. So I said, well, so you're just going to let them get away with it? I said, yeah, there's not much we can do. So I thought, I'm going to call the vendor. I said, did you know they did this? No. Do you want to know? Not really. We'll just give you a refund.
So they just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't look for those people?
Right.
Oh,
Remember I mentioned how the transactions now occur all over the place? It's really hard to track them down. And then if you do, who's going to pursue it? The local police? And they're too busy with other things. So a lot of those crimes just go by the wayside.
How can you prevent that?
Well, they try now with the chips on the card. So it means that it's harder to use a credit card number. You used to be able to just key in a number and boom, you're done. But with the chips, like if you're somewhere, it makes you have that chip. And that little code on the back is supposed to make it harder. So people actually have to physically have the card so they can look at the back. But if you got your California state stimulus, if you notice, they didn't put the chips on those cards. And there's a tremendous amount of fraud going on. And people said, if you get the card, get the money out, just close it. And then get rid of the card because it's not a very secure card. And that way, you don't have to worry about it. Put it in your account.
going to use it and
Yeah, that might be coming. They just finished up, they said. Okay, so now we have a couple accounts. Let's fill them up with some money. So we're going to go up to this cog, or like we go to the chart of accounts. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not this one. We're going to go to new. I'll show you. I was wrong. Over here with the green QuickBooks logo, and you'll see new. So just up here on the left-hand side. See Intuit QuickBooks, when you hover over here, it should open up, and then you should see new. And it's under other transfer. So this is where you do your bank transfers. So here is how you transfer funds from one account to the other. We're going to select the from account, which is going to be our basic checking because it's the only one that has any money. And then it gives you the balance on the right-hand side, the current balance. Hey, I broke that 10,000 mark. You get there. And then it's going to say, where are you sending it to? So let's do the petty cash first. Of course, the balance is 0. And the amount is like $100. Generally on a petty cash, you only keep about 100. If it's more than that, do a purchase order or something else. Sometimes companies will have a company card and you can use a credit card. And then you can track that separately on here too. When I worked for the County Office of Education, if you had to use a car to go to a conference or something, each car had its own card and it was a gas card. So when I was in the gas station, I'd never used one before. And I said to the clerk, I said, I'm just curious. I don't want to, but could you buy beef sticks and chips with this? And they said, no, it's blocked. If you try, it won't pay for it. You have to pay for that yourself. I said, okay, I'm just curious. I wasn't going to do it. Don't tell anybody I was going to do it. I was just wondering how it worked. And so we'll get into those in the advanced class. It's a sub account. So they have one credit card account and then they have sub account cards and they're all under the major fleet account. And that's how it works. So that way they could independently track how much each car was costing for fuel and things and charge on each car. All right, so I'm going to say $100 here.
Okay,
And-
so what is the petty cash for?
Just, okay, so your pencil breaks and you don't have any pencils. Do you really want to do a purchase order for a box of pencils? No, you can just go out and buy them, right? So what you do is you take, so you got $100 in the box. I'll take 10 out. I'll go to the local store, buy a box of pencils, come back, put the receipt in the box, because that's what you're supposed to do. Again, that doesn't happen very often. And then you just got your pencils and you're ready to go. So it's for little things like that. Usually, like I just picked 100. Some people go to 200. But the other thing too is this is live cash on hand, meaning it's temptation. If anybody sees, wow, look at all those bills. Hey, this company owes me. You know, they might decide, well, sticky fingers to grab something. So the more cash you have in there, like $1,000, it becomes a lot more tempting than just 100. So ideally, everybody gets the receipts back and then you keep track of it. And then when you're out on money, you can do another transfer. Does that really happen? No. And how much time do you want to spend looking for a $2.13 receipt, right? Spend more time doing it than it's worth. So a lot of times they just write this off as just a general expense. And, you know, like when auditors come, if it's not a large money amount, they'll just leave it alone. Because that's why it's called petty, right? Everybody understands that's the whole idea. When I worked, I had a friend who owned a little bagel shop right next to Save Mart, the Save Mart shopping center. They ran on bananas. And I thought, oh man, what are they going to do? You know, because he did bagels and smoothies, because you can't make smoothies without bananas. And he pulled money out of the petty cash and he told his clerk, can you go to Save Mart and buy them? And I thought, you're using Save Mart bananas? I didn't think you could do that. I said, why not? I said, well, don't you have to have a supplier? Yeah, we do, but we're out. So I got to make do. So he just did that. So see, that worked. So it's for little things like that. And then if you want to put a memo in, you can say transfer for first petty cash amount or something like that. And once again, you can have attachments. So if you got receipts, you can do that. They now have on TV commercial for the little Epson printer or Epson receipt scanner that you run all your receipts through, and it gives you a little picture and then you can attach it here. That's kind of handy, but I don't know. See, to me, if you're the kind of person that would use that, you're probably the kind of person who's probably doing pretty well with your receipts anyway.
Chase is doing that, but they're not doing it
Yeah. And now, you know, got your own phone. You can always take a picture of receipt.
So now we do saving.
Save and close, just so we could see how it affected everything.
Saving.
You could do save and new and then just close it. Save and new would bring up a new screen, and we are going to go back because we're going to transfer money to the savings.
But when you take a picture with your phone, doesn't that the hacker can get into your info and all that stuff?
Yeah, but your receipt usually doesn't have the full account number,
Oh,
like its last 4 digits. Yeah, that you don't send passwords over text, right, or social security numbers. But as a general rule, you're safe because there's so much traffic, and it's not really very lucrative to go after onesies and twosies like that. However, why chance it? But usually on receipts, if you've got your credit card number, they only show the last couple of digits anyway, for that reason too. Because if you drop it, somebody could pick it up. Ooh, let's go spending. I got a credit card number. So you're usually pretty safe. And then, well, kind of depends on how you do it.
But on the cards, if you lose it, I mean, right away, if they're buying something with it, the bank not automatically sends you a message or something, if it's you or not.
Yeah, there are some banks that will do that, but only if it's kind of out of the pattern. Like if you only use your credit card for $10 purchases and all of a sudden a $10,000 TV is on it, they might call you up. If it's from another location, like all of a sudden they're in Nevada, well, Nevada's pretty close, but say Oregon, so, you know, it's kind of far away, they might call up. Yep, and you can, there are settings usually on your cards to monitor that, and you could tell them ahead of time. I had a card once, they shut it down because we were in Mexico and said, hey, you got a transaction from Mexico, shut down. So I had to call them up. He said, oh, you can change that in your settings. Just when you know you're going somewhere, tell us or put it in there, and it won't do that to you again.
Or in other states, they'll add on, like we put gas at a gas station in Arizona, and they added on 170, and I'm like, how much gas did you put in there? And it was like 50 something. And then I said, well, they charged us, but they automatically do that. And then the next
Yeah,
day,
they pull it down.
back in.
If you use a credit card, if you use your debit card, it doesn't. But if you use your debit card, you're also putting in your secret code.
Yeah.
So if they put a skimmer in the machine, then you could be in trouble that way. Yeah, the credit cards, because the way that transactions are processed, it'll warn you on the gas pumps it says that your bank may withhold larger funds than you actually pay. And sometimes it could take up to a week to clear. But it's funny. There's a kind of a joke in programming that as they build, like add new things, like even QuickBooks and all these great new products, they're building on everything that was before. Now it's a lot different, a lot faster, but everything that was before still has to work. And the joke is that all of the computer infrastructure is unknowingly reliant on one programmer in Nebraska keeping this little old program running, that if it crashed, everything else would crash because it was built on it. They never go back to fix it. Do you remember the Y2K scare? Yeah, there's another one coming up that it won't be as bad, but they made a big fuss about that. And that was because the programming language at the time only had 2 digits for the year. So like what's the year today? 23, not 2023, 23. And the way the computers would do calculations is they'd subtract the year, or well, the date from one date from another. Well, right now, if that's not fixed, the computer would think it's 1923 instead of 2023, because all it does, it's always assuming 19 and then the 2 digits. And that was because back in the old days, the memory made a big deal if you had 4-digit years as opposed to 2. You could save a lot of space just by having a 2-digit year. And something else would come along by the year 2000, and it didn't. And especially, I think they were like electric companies and water companies. The program is called COBOL, and that's the one I took in high school. And right after I graduated from high school, I was like, what a waste that was. Nobody's ever going to use COBOL anymore. And for a while, COBOL programmers were asking for millions to come in and fix all that code, and it all had to be fixed. They had to change it from a 2-digit year to a 4-digit year. So the computer will know it is not 1923, it's 2023. Yeah. So there's another one coming up in March, and it's based on seconds, but it won't be as bad. Anyway, it wasn't that bad, and it wasn't as bad as everybody said it was going to be, because remember, it was going to be catastrophe, Armageddon, and depends how you look at it. You could say, see, they overblew it. It wasn't as bad as they said. Or you could say, people got so scared, they fixed it, and so it wasn't as bad as it was going to be. But either way, we got through it. So speaking of which, under here, we have our petty cash. I'm going to click on View Registered. And ta-da, there's my $100 deposit. See, it's a deposit in the petty cash. Yep, now we have 100. So I said, the rule is supposed to be, you go out and buy a box of pencils, you bring me a receipt and change back from the pencils. Comes in, I can go ahead and put it in here, pencils, $2.13, and then put the change in the box and it balances out. In the hustle and bustle of every day, those receipts get forgotten, shoved in a pocket, go through the washing machine, and if the bookkeeper isn't keeping track, a whole bunch of receipts could pile up to you. All of a sudden you're out of money and there's no receipts. As I mentioned, because it's such a small amount, some companies say, don't bother with it. But others, and then it depends on the kind of bookkeeper you are. If you're the kind of person that everything has to add up, that'll drive you crazy. I gotta have that receipt. So say, just send me a picture, I'll take that. And that way it all balances out. So, yeah.
For my check mark,
Mhm.
it doesn't mark as sharp as yours.
That's okay.
It's just like
Yeah.
light. And I press the arrow, but it doesn't.
This is a reconciliation. Once you reconcile the transaction, you can add it here. You get a C if you want to check it, or R for reconcile.
Where is reconcile?
Under the check mark, cancel here. First, you have to go to the transaction. So I click on my $100 here.
It says indicates whether a transaction was added or matched in the account code.
Right. So that's a description of what it does.
So do I just press the person and it does
Click on where it says the memo. Transfer for first petty cash. Click on this. Really? Then you're going to click here, and the C means check for later, R means reconciled, and when you save,
So do I press for the reconcile?
yeah. So we manually did it. There is another tool you can use.
And then I, after reconciling, what do you do?
That's it.
No, but
Oh, save.
see. You said it gets. Transaction save.
So what's this next one over? Reconcile statements.
The little blank with the
Yeah.
mark is, click on that and it's gonna.
So what you would do if you had a bank statement, you could have a whole 100 different transactions. You could put C's on all the questions, like if there's a balance that doesn't look right, or if like this transaction doesn't show up in the bank statement. And then the R means done. And then when you're all done, you go back to the C's, give the bank a call, and go through each one. So here is our petty cash. Let's go back to the chart of accounts. And look at my checking account, check register. So mine is out of order. So I'm gonna see it's showing my first transaction from January 26th. So I'm gonna click on the date and that little arrow, and that resorts them. There it goes. So there it is, petty cash, the transfer. And if you want to mark that as reconciled too, you can. Because petty cash doesn't go through a bank statement, it won't really show. If you drew this out of the bank as a withdrawal, though, it would show that you took $100 out. And there it is. So that's how you transfer. So let's go do another one for our savings account. So I'm going to click on New again in the upper left-hand corner. And it's under Other, Transfer. So once again, drawing from the basic checking, transfer funds to the savings. So we'll do $1,000. So for memo, I'll just say establish checking or establish savings account. Like that. You don't have to do a memo, but sometimes if you do a lot of these, it's not bad to have it in there, especially like the boss came in and said, okay, I need you to transfer $5,000 from the basic checking to our special checking, and it has to be now. Okay, something just happened. They probably wrote a check you can't cover, right? So I would say in that case, you know, Dan the boss told me to make this transaction. That way, if he's like in trouble and he gets in trouble and they say, why did you make this transaction? Oh, he told me to. It says right here, I made a note. So you're not an accomplice. It just happened. So I'm going to save and close. Sometimes you'll do this too because savings account will be interest bearing and checking accounts won't be anymore. So you can earn a little interest on the savings. And again, you know, 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have $1 million, you definitely put as much in the savings account as you can, and then you just transfer it as you need it to the checking account. So now you can see I've got $1,000 in my savings and 100 in the petty cash. And once again, just like I go to my chart of accounts. It's like the other accounts, you have a register for your savings. And there it is. Yeah, if you look on the chart of accounts, you'll see savings, and they're all grouped together by bank type. So they're all at the top. So there they are. My savings is at the bottom. And I can view register. And you'll see at the top up here, go to chart of accounts, or always up here with the little gear, chart of accounts. In the savings, when you view register, it's in the deposit column. So $1,000. I'm going to go back to the chart of accounts. In the checking,
Reconcile?
no, I mean, you can, but we don't have to. Yeah. Let's take a look at your checking account. You'll see the $1,000 is in the payment column. So you made a payment from checking to savings. So you would never see the checking be a deposit, the savings to be a deposit if you're moving from one to the other. All right. So now you can see if I want to know how much money I made, I can't just look at my checkbook balance anymore because I might have some in the other accounts. So this is one of the reasons you use those reports. Like you can look at the balance sheet, the profit and loss, and that will tell you with all your accounts, whether you've got profits or losses. Losses aren't always bad. There are some businesses that will run at losses all year round, except for one time where they make so much money, it makes the losses all worth it. So like back east Martha's Vineyard, nobody wants to be there right now because it's freezing cold. But come summer, all the rich people go there. If you have a business, you have to keep the business going all year. So you're not really making any money in January, right? But you keep the business open just to keep it going and be established. But come July, all the tourists come in, spend a lot of money, and you're back in the black. So you go in the red for a while so you can stay in the black in the good times. And then the cycle starts over again next year. Remember the movie Jaws? If you ever saw the movie Jaws, the sheriff is pressed by the Chamber of Commerce guy, the banker guy, or the business guy, who is like, you can't shut us down. And he's the bad guy, right? But when you realize, well, he's talking about all those poor families who own those businesses. If there's a shark in the water, nobody's coming and they won't make their money. And now when they go in the red, they'll stay in the red and they'll be out of business. And so now you got to give a little bit more sympathy to him. But, you know, he's still a jerk. But he was written that way. But anyway, that's the way it works in some businesses, if they're seasonal like that. So it's okay to have a negative balance if you know reasonably that you're going to end up with a positive balance. So you dip into savings, and farmers do this all the time. They dip into their savings to plant their farm crops. Then good rains come and they harvest and they make a lot of money. The rains don't come, they don't get a good harvest, they don't make much money. So it's always a gamble. And there are businesses that operate that way. Any questions on transfers? So those transfers are transfers within your accounts, not necessarily like transferring money from your checking account to PayPal outside to another organization. That would be a separate transfer. All right, there's no questions. We are done for the night. Time is fun when you're having flies, right? Well, that's the thing. The more you know about this, kind of have a better feel for how the things work. And it makes sense. I mean, all this is supposed to make sense. There's a thing called the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, GAAP, GAAP. And it's basically the standards of what you can use. And I don't know if you heard, but the Congress pledged money, but they also created their own law that said we can only spend this amount. That's the debt limit. Well, they pledged the money, it's going to increase beyond that. So they have to change the debt limit, but some don't want to do that. So it already happened, but they're doing accounting maneuvers that will work till about June. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're transferring funds, like some programs had not used up some of their money, so they'll transfer that money over here and that'll keep things balanced, but they have to make a decision, either cut the spending or increase the debt limit. Every year this happens, they increase the debt limit. They'll do some spending cuts and then they'll increase the debt limit. But now you understand they got to keep their books balanced, just like everybody else.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
We'll see if that girl ever got picked up.
Yeah, I hope so. If not, we'll have to call someone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Have a safe drive back.
You as well.
Thank you.